Welcome to Top Employers Inspire, 3 days of curated content for you to gain as much as possible of insights from the world of work. At Top Employers Institute, we want to inspire with purpose. We are genuinely on a mission to make a positive impact on the world of work. And also to do so, we like to share insights. We'd like to share the insights for your learning and to action on them tomorrow in the workplace. Therefore, Top Employers Inspire, a couple of days with many different sessions. Next up still, we've got neuroplasticity. If you want to discover how you can actually change your brain, stick around and register for the next session this afternoon. Tomorrow we've got Nestle China on mentor networks, and we've got still got UST and JUSC, just to name a few. Register for a couple of sessions to have the biggest of ROI on your learning and to be inspired with most of the insights. Now we're connecting live with the UK with our highly valued HR auditor Chloe Lawrence for a session with Coca-Cola Europacific partners on how they are delivering the digital employee experience. So Chloe, over to you.
Thank you very much, Wouter. So we've got a really exciting session today and lots to cover on the digital employee experience. So here we're going to talk about employee journey mapping, how to utilize employee feedback, and also how to ensure inclusivity in all of this. So let's go straight into it. And our guest today is Suzy Jearum, who is Associate Director of Employee Experience at Coca-Cola Europacific Partners. And CCEP are certified as a top employer here in the UK for 2023 for their outstanding HR policies and people practices. And as part of the top employer certification, there's an audit that validates these HR policies and practices that are in place. And I had the pleasure to hear more from Suzy during the validation session on their digital journey so far. So we're really excited to share these insights with all of you today. And please get involved by asking your questions in the Ask the Speaker chat. And hopefully we'll have time for Q&A at the end. So I will hand over to Suzy.
Thanks, Chloe. It's an absolute pleasure to be invited to speak at the session today. I'm really proud that CCP got the top employer for 2023. It means a lot to us to get that recognition. And today I'd just like to talk through a little bit about how we've been working over the last few years to really put our employees at the heart of the processes and tools that we design. So I'll run through a few slides to try and bring our story to life, but please do ask your questions. So I'm really talking about how we're delivering a personalised digital employee experience for our employees at Coca-Cola Europacific Partners. Last year, we were lucky enough to win the UK Employee Experience Awards for Best Digital Tools, and I'll talk through some of those tools today. But just to introduce Coca-Cola Europacific Partners, we are one of the world's leading consumer goods companies. We're making, moving and selling some of the most loved drinks brands in the world. We're a global business operating in 29 countries and we have 33,000 employees. So our focus is great beverages, great people and great service done sustainably. And when we talk about employee experience, we really have to consider our diverse workforce. So we need to make sure that our tools, technology and processes cater for all of our people, regardless of where they work. So if we look overall, about 38% of our employees work in commercial, they're out visiting customers. And then almost half of our employees are working in customer service and supply chain. So that's really important when we start to think about tools that can be accessible for all, including people who are not sat at a desk or have a company mobile phone. because really the minority of our employees are in the supporting functions and are in more desk-based roles. So knowing that information, we really started to think about what's our strategy for digital employee experience. And our purpose and the purpose of my team is to deliver a personalised digital experience through the hire to retire employee journey, really focusing on the moments that matter. And why are we doing this? Because we want to improve how people interact with their workplace digital tools to allow them to be more engaged, more proficient, and more productive. And how we're doing it? Well, we're measuring voice of the customer, voice of the employee data. We're measuring each experience. We're designing and challenging in the employee journeys to create an only Coke can do experience. And we're designing and involving our digital tools with a human touch. So going back to those employees that I mentioned, the 33,000, we created some employee personas to help us make sure we're designing our tools and processes in an inclusive way. So we tried to keep it simple by having 5 personas. And for each persona, we've really looked at what are the facts and figures. So using real data for our organization to look at average age, length of service, to look at what the key business drivers are for people working in that area of the business, looking at what matters to them and what do they need from the people and culture team. So how can we best support them? And by having these personas, it really helps us make sure that what we're designing is going to work right across the board. So I mentioned the hire to retire employee journey, and this is what we're measuring at CCP. So for us, the moments that matter are I join, I onboard, I grow my skills, I look for my next step, I change role, I assess and discuss my performance, I balance my work and life, I face a personal issue or have a life event, and I leave. But we know those moments that matter don't happen every day. So in addition to that, we make sure that there's easy, effortless journeys for the everyday interactions. So, a query, amending or viewing personal data, checking compensation and benefits. And we use these employee personas to check up on all of these items, whether it's designing a journey or measuring the journey. And that's what I'm going to explain a little bit more about now. So to try and bring this to life, just an example of one of our employee journey design workshops that we ran for onboarding. We asked the business what the top priority should be for designing an employee journey. What was their biggest pain point? And onboarding was the top priority. So we had a look at what should be the vision. Where do we want to get to? What should be the future success statement for a great onboarding experience? And then we ran working sessions in 3 different countries with different groups of employees representing those personas to design the future feelings, the future digital tools to support, the future interactions with people and culture and line managers. And you can see from the middle of the screen, we kind of designed this in a pretty interactive way using the persona and thinking about what tools can support. We've then been implementing those journeys to all of our CCEP countries in Europe. So it's an ongoing journey with continuous listening and improvements, but this has been the baseline, this has been the blueprint that we've kept going back to as we've implemented. So to create our digital tools and to get to that digital vision, we start off with our personas, we do our journey mapping in a very collaborative way. We create a future success statement so that we know from our employee and manager's perspective, what is it that we should be aiming for? What does great look like to them? And then once we've got all of those, we then look at, well, what are the digital tools that can support us? Where should we go with the technology? And really importantly, how does all that tech fit together? What we don't want to do is bamboozle people with too many different tools and places to go. So we created one engagement layer for our employees and we called it Genie. So Genie is our one place to go for everything people related, and all of the tools, information, and requests that you would need to make around any people process are done through Genie. And Genie is that top layer that then links out to all of the other tools such as learning, performance management, and career development. So for us, our ways of working are having this engagement layer of Genie, which is a personalized digital experience. So it gives me content that's relevant to me based on the country I work on, the role I have, and whether I'm a people manager or not. We always make sure that our digital tools are mobile and iPad friendly, because we know not all of our employees, in fact, the minority of employees are sat at a desk. So we need to make sure that people can connect to tools, processes, and informations through their mobile phone 24/7. People are at the heart of all of the design, and we do continuous listening sessions on various topics just to make sure we're really moving in the right direction and delivering what's going to be useful and used by the employees. And here's an example of our always on feedback. So we ask our employees whether they would recommend tools and experiences, and we ask them for one improvement recommendation, and we use that to influence our change roadmap. Another key way of working is really using our Coke branding and to think about our internal tools almost like we do our products. So we want them to look nice, we want them to be intuitive and easy to use, and we want them to have that Coke look and feel. And finally, the icon there is our Process Ninja badge. So it's really important that we have this continuous improvement mindset right across our people and culture function. So we've done lots of training with basic continuous improvement methodologies, and we target everyone in our people services team to raise 3 improvement ideas and to make them happen. So to champion them, make them go live within a year. So we're always making improvements, no matter how big or small. And how we measure employee experience, because it's not always easy to measure the digital tools. So we've used the Google Heart framework, and this helps us to understand the happiness, the engagement, the adoption, the retention, and the task success around our tools. So that's what the heart stands for. And we do this by measuring the EMPS score. So we ask, would you recommend a tool? We also look at satisfaction with different parts and experiences. We monitor adoption not only overall, but drill down into different countries and populations, into those different personas, to check that the tools are being used. And whether not, we take remedial action and support with more change management. But we also look at returning users. So are people returning to a tool because they find it simple and easy to use and engaging and useful? And finally, can they complete what they need to do in the tool, or are they having to come out and do anything manually? So we really want to make sure everything can be done digitally if wanted. So it's kind of this ongoing cycle where we map the employee journey and the manager journey using our personas. We then develop the heart framework to understand how we're going to measure success. We make continuous improvements and then validate the improvements against the journey and against those target measures, and then continue to listen, optimize, and share. So our journey is never finished, but we've made great improvements over the past 5 years. And what's this meant to CCP? Well, we have really high engagement. So for our Genie platform, over 2,000 people were promoted last month, and people are always willing to give us feedback to make Genie better, because they know that when they give feedback, improvements are made. They see the return on their time. We're also getting really good engagement and adoption of our tools. So again, for Genie, 90% of our employees accessed it last quarter. So it really is an inclusive platform that's got something that's useful for all of our employees. It's useful for people who are our deskless workers, which again I mentioned is really the majority of our employees, because they can access from their own mobile. And we're retaining talent. So from that onboarding journey that we designed, what we're seeing is we're retaining 95% of our newly onboarded employees a year later. So they're having a great experience when they join and they're staying with us. And of course, a really big focus for us is giving time back to our employees so they can focus on our customers, they can focus on making, moving, and selling our products. So by making our processes and experience quicker, simpler, and easier, and available 24/7 at a time that suits them, we've really been able to give time back to the business, and that's something that we measure. So that kind of summarizes and introduces what we do. But I'm really happy to now take some questions.
Thank you so much, Suzy, for sharing all of those insights. I know that it's going to be really useful for anyone watching this. And Wouter's talked a lot about kind of tangible things for people to take away, and you've shared so much in there. So whilst we wait for some questions that I'm sure we'll get from the audience, I've got some questions for you as well.
Okay.
So the first thing is our top employers are all at different stages of their digital journey. So some are in the very early stages of adoption and implementation, and some further ahead looking at longer term priorities. So what was your starting point at CCEP when you know, looking back when you first started your digital journey? So how did you look at where to start and what the priorities should be?
Yeah. So we really started this in 2016. There was 3 different Coke bottling companies that merged to become Coca-Cola European partners at the time. And we took that as an opportunity to say, where is it we want to go? So let's create a 5-year vision for digital, for process, for experience. And at that time, there was no digital employee experience team or role. Um, we sort of took a step back and we said, what are the current processes? So what is each country doing today? And the idea of that was to understand what was already working well that we would want to keep, and what wasn't working so well that we would really want to focus our efforts on improving. So as well as asking the people and culture teams, we also asked the business, and then came up with that kind of priority order. We knew recruitment, onboarding, and offboarding were priority areas. So that's where we started. We did some process design workshops, which again, we tried to be really inclusive. I think we had about 300 individuals join those sessions, which we ran over the course of a year. So it wasn't a quick exercise, but we really took our time. We used the as is processes, we used the feedback, and we said, where could we be in 5 years' time? What's the art of the possible? And then that's when we started with the personas and the employee journey mapping. So I think at the time there was maybe a feeling of, let's just get going, let's just start making changes. But now looking back, kind of 6 years on, I really think it was the right thing to do, to take our time to do that design, because every time we could keep coming back to, well, this is the process design, this is the vision. So actually, are we moving it in the right direction or not? And those processes still are relevant today.
Mm-hmm. Great. And then just to pick up a bit more on the inclusivity piece there that you mentioned as well. So it's really nice to see that you did that with very much intention behind it. So especially considering the different functions that you have in place, not everybody is desk-based. So what have been your main challenges there, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, and I think it is quite challenging when you are an office worker yourself to design processes for other people. So those personas and doing the interviews to create the personas. So really getting out, speaking to people, visiting the sites, really gave us a different perspective. Um, because you see actually the focus isn't them completing a people process. Their focus is delivering their day job. So I think by kind of living it and almost walking in the employee's shoes, it really helped us to give us a different perspective and insights. But still today now, I would say our biggest challenge is full adoption from all types of employees. And I think there's some employees that are maybe not so comfortable with digital. So we've created a program called Be More Digital, and we are doing some bite-sized learning on our main tools so that people can just kind of go back to basics and watch a quick video, and they're literally 1 minute videos, but just to demo the main tools. So I think we're trying to help with the digital awareness, trying to help with the accessibility, and then keeping that regular contact with all of the different employee types is kind of how we're overcoming that.
Great. And we actually just had a question come in, which probably that answers. So the question was actually, with the demographics of your employees, there could be some who are less tech savvy. So this could obviously be a challenge when it comes to digital experience. And if there were any insights or stories on that, anything else that you could share more than what you just did?
Yeah, and I think when we really look at it, it that kind of digital awareness can go right across the organization and can be kind of cross generation. So it's actually really interesting when you really look into the data, and that's where that adoption data and the retention data is really critical, because it challenges our assumptions, and we start to see actually who is using the tools and who isn't. And then we can ask, well, why not? Is it that you think it's not relevant? You don't need to, you're not sure how to? And we've done a lot of training. So we're quite lucky that we're well into our journey. So over the past few years, we've done training on site, we've done this kind of digital training I've mentioned. But I think that repetition of the message, and also having that one place to go for everything people related. So at some point, all employees probably want to check their payslip, book holiday. So actually, then once they're in Genie, then they start to see, oh, there's actually this other content in there that might also be useful for me.
Mm.
So I don't think it's one thing. I think it's lots of things coming together.
Mm. And I think it's really nice how you look at it from sort of both the process side, but also the sort of moments that matter and that more emotional side for the employees as well, because there's that practical element, but then, what actually matters in terms of employee experience. And then we have another question here now. So this one is about employee feedback. So what have the biggest improvements to your processes been according to your employees?
Um, I think one of the key ones is finding information. So if we go back to 2016, we had lots of information on our intranets. We had different intranets per country. No one was particularly owning it or managing content. So you ended up with duplicate content, missing content, no clear owner if things were broken. So just having Genie as our knowledge base, where you can search a topic, then you see related content. It's really easy to find the information. It's available in your language, and we review it at least once a year. So we know the information is always up to date. So I think that's one general one. And then more specifically on the process, I would say onboarding. So again, we had no standard way of doing onboarding. It varied per country, almost varied per manager. So if you had a great manager, you'd have a great experience. Otherwise, you might not have your equipment, you might not have your access. So now we've standardized those basics, and we're signposting managers to what they can do to deliver a really great experience to their employees. And we're building on it year on year based on the feedback, because we've got those always on surveys. So we know what's working and what's not working. So I think that's been a real success story for us as well.
Great. And I just want to go back to your slides and something that you mentioned in your slides. So one of the things you said was about evolving smart digital solutions, but with a human touch. How did you go about humanizing the digital experience?
Yeah, so it's as part of our branding, we have lots of photos of employees kind of peppered throughout our tools. So it's never just a kind of a faceless tool. You always got a kind of that connection with people. But I think also really importantly, behind the tools, there is a people services team that's answering the requests. So our employees know when they ask a question, they are going to get a response from a person. They will see that person's name. They can have back and forward conversations within Genie with that person. And then if there's anything that is really critical and they just want to connect and have a phone call, we do offer that service as well. So I think it's having the right tools available at the right time, because if I just want to go and check my benefits information, I want to be able to do that myself. But perhaps if I'm having a baby and going on maternity leave, perhaps I want to talk that through with someone and understand it a bit more. So that's another way we're really trying to humanize it, is not a one size fits all approach, just really
Mhm.
thinking about what's the moment and how can we make it as good as it can be.
Yep, absolutely. And then something that I sort of picked up from that, as well as an additional question. So there's lots obviously around at the moment about AI and the opportunities and challenges that come with that. So sort of chatbot functionalities and things. So from your perspective, what do you think the future for digital employee experience looks like, and what are your priorities at CCEP?
Yeah, and chatbots is really interesting because we've never enabled one, because from what we've seen, just the quality is not where we want it to be. So we would rather have somebody responding with an actual answer than something automated that falls short and people get a bad experience. But having said that, we are looking at what can become more automated. Where can we give an instant response without someone needing to review it? So we're setting up that automation. But I think there's going to be huge opportunities with AI. There's going to be lots of things that we're doing manually today that will just be available and be automated in the future. So it's really great to have this kind of base platform and good adoption, because as we bring more things in, we're kind of can keep taking people on that journey with us.
Mhm. And then, so in terms of your priorities, what would be your things that you're looking at over the next sort of 2 to 5 years?
So we're always working on refreshing the journeys, making improvements based on feedback. So that continuous improvement stream is always on. At the moment, we are rolling out our European tools to some additional countries in Australia and Asia Pacific, because we really want a global way of working. And we recently acquired the Australian bottling company. So they're on their legacy processes and systems at the moment. So, really, to bring it into one global approach is going to be a big focus for us on the next couple of years. But also, like you mentioned, leveraging things like AI
Mhm,
and the new tech that's becoming available just to make it the experiences even better.
mhm. Great, thank you. And we have another question now from the audience. So, someone would like to ask, how easy is it to build relationships in the digital workplace?
Um, I mean, to me, it's the same, really. I think if you've got a tool that connects you with other people in the organization, and it's easy to use and it's transparent, it can sometimes be easier than being in the real world. So maybe as an example, we launched last year our career hub, and that is a kind of hub for everything career and talent development related. Again, links from Genie, but it's kind of the place to go to grow your career. So really focusing on that, I grow my skills, develop my career moment that matters. And within that, employees can see their peers, they can network with them based on their career aspiration, based on the skills that they have today and the skills they want to develop tomorrow. So that's completely digital. But through that, I know personally, me and my team have connected with other people within CCEP that we didn't know existed. It's such a large organization. Um, and now we've kind of made those connections. We're able to collaborate on projects, share best practices, So I think in some ways, yeah, digital can make it easier to build relationships, but I don't think it replaces the real world. I wouldn't advocate everything being online. I think it just, supports and enhances.
Great. Just checking if we have any more questions from the audience. Okay. So I think that's it. So yeah, thank you so much again for sharing all of this insights. So many practical things that people can actually take away and implement themselves. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
You're welcome.
And talk to us today.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chloe, and especially thank you, Suzy. It's inspiring to see how you've really put the employee at the heart of any of your designs. What struck me the most was your hire to retire map. That's a lifelong, basically, of work, and that really puts the mind to the long term, and likely also expressed in your amazing retention rate. So thank you again. Up next, neuroplasticity. So if you want to know how you can change your brain, stick around and or register for the next session. Tomorrow, amongst many other impressive certified top employers, we've got an exciting session on the fundamental shift in HR, navigating agile practices and skills-based organization. So that's very much the future-looking session also. Do yourself a learning favor, register for some more sessions. We are here to share the knowledge and inspire you with insights. Top Employers Inspire, and hope to see you again in our next section.